Action.
Yeah. When you're looking for these guys, what jumps out at you? What do you look for on Instagram?
I just hope someone will come on the show. So I would have to look back into the exact conversation, but I think I get a lot of DMs, and I think this guy said something like, "Hey, I'm a cop," and then we start talking, and he tells me where he's a cop, and I'm making this up now, and then we start DMing back and forth. And next thing I know, I'm like, he must have said something that intrigued me, and I'm like, oh shit, that'd be cool to talk to this guy on the podcast. You know what's funny is someone asked me the other day, who are your dream guests? And God, I think I don't even really know who my dream guests are. I just like talking to people.
Seems like we've had mostly men so far.
I know, yeah, I get that comment a lot. I shouldn't say a lot. I've always, since I've been a little boy, I've been always kind of a little scared of women. Intimidated by women. Are you intimidated by women?
I don't think so. I think that working in CrossFit has made me like less intimidated by women. Some of the women in CrossFit look very intimidating, but when you sit down and talk to them, they're not.
When I used to do the behind the scenes, I never thought it more of their looks. I guess, and that's kind of weird too, because I grew up in a household. I spent most of my time with my mom and my sister. And when I grew up like that, it's funny. I never even really thought of them as women. I just think of them as people. But I've always been intimidated since I've been little. I've been sort of like intimidated by women. And God, I don't know if intimidated is the right word. I'm more like a deer in headlights. I really struggled when I did the behind the scenes for CrossFit, for the CrossFit Games, to speak to women. Like, that shit was hard. And bam! There he
is. All right.
Well, my headphones gotta get synced.
Guido, we're already recording. Guido Patrizzi.
How do I sound? I think my headphones not working.
You sound good. Can you hear us? So what was it like working with John Travolta when you made Grease?
It was awesome. It's one of the first things people say. I was with John Travolta. It's crazy.
Oh, I didn't even so much think that.
I don't see it at all, but some people do.
It's funny. I really, really see it. That's not why I said it. I said it just because of your name. A couple things I wanted to share with you guys. There's few things greater in life than having a bowel movement before you work out. It's like, holy shit, the timing of that could not have been better. I don't know if you guys agree with me.
It happens more often than not.
And I made a video yesterday on my Instagram, and someone commented that they didn't hear a word I said because all they were staring at the whole time was that my beard hair connects to my neck hair. Look at this. Can you see that?
It's like a carpet. It's just one flow.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm going to have like a helmet here in a minute.
At least you can grow a beard. I'm 34 and I can only grow patches.
and Guido, by the way, this is Brian Friend up here in the corner. Brian, Guido, Brian. And the third thing is I had a dream last night, and I'm not like a big I don't remember a lot of my dreams. But this one I not only remember, but I memorized it. I was in line at like some eatery, and it was on a beach. And in line in front of me was Rich Froning with his shirt off. And I have this kind of weird relationship with him because I was very close to him, or I would think I was very close to him. And then we've kind of grown apart over just drama. Nothing specific, but I think more just like other people's drama and whose side.
Basically, you're friends with Matt Fraser and Josh Bridges.
Yeah, and even more complicated than that. There's been tons of like ripples up and down. We made a movie about him when we were at CrossFit, and there was some. There was some drama around that, but I really like him. All my experiences with him, he's been fucking amazing to me. I mean, he treats me so good every time I see him. But anyway, he was in line in front of me at this store. It was like a place where you buy sandwiches on the beach, and he was shirtless, and we hugged. And in my dream, I actually remembered, like, I got the sensory feeling that I hugged him. It was kind of cool. And then I woke up and panicked that I had a podcast this morning, and here we are. Guido Patrizzi is a police officer in Massachusetts. Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah, that's good. We can go with that.
And he takes his health and his fitness very seriously. We are Instagram friends, and police officers have always been, I make this assumption that police officers are a huge part of every boy's life, man's life in the United States. We spend our young childhood avoiding police officers, and then the evolution of me is that I then started working at CrossFit, where CrossFit, the foundation, the base of CrossFit, from when I started back in 2006, and Greg and the people around me would talk, is the reason why the base of CrossFit is first responders and the military is because it's a fitness program that gets you the fittest and healthiest through nutrition and movement that you can be. And if your life depends on your fitness, why wouldn't you want to use the greatest fitness program? I.e., you have to run into a burning building and save a baby. You have to chase a bad guy and jump over a fence. But there are moments where your fitness could be the difference between life and death. And you can find endless videos on YouTube where police officers, you wish they would have had better fitness, or you see that, oh shit, that guy's fitness pulled him through. And then I had kids, and so and I started hanging out with a lot of more first responders and police officers, and so my relationship with them changed because they became real people, not just guys who were trying to give me tickets for smoking weed in the park at a concert when I was 25. And then, of course, I had kids, and I have 3 little boys now, and I absolutely adore police officers because I don't want people on the streets who are intoxicated and can run my boys over when they're on tricycles. And I could give you 10 million scenarios where I'm glad there's police officers. We're at the beach and there's guys swinging a machete around, and what do you want? You want the police officer to come and take them away so your little boys are safe. You're at a Starbucks and you're trying to drink a coffee and sit with your boys, and there's some guy taking a shit on the sidewalk in front of the Starbucks, and you want to call the police. I mean, I've personally chased 4 muggers down in my life and called the police all 4 times, and they arrived, and I don't want people stealing my kids' bikes or stealing anything now that I'm a hardworking American, and my time is what allows me to make money, and my time is the most valuable thing I have, and so I want police officers to help me protect my possessions so they don't get stolen, because that's like stealing time from me, etc., etc. So my relationship with and perspective of police has changed dramatically over the course of my life. And obviously, if you're doing things that are illegal, and I don't mean that in a bad way, maybe some things that are illegal should be legal, but when you're younger and you're doing more aggressive things that are illegal, you obviously want to stay away from police. And I've used the metaphor, the analogy that police are like bees. They're vital to society, but you should kind of stay away from them. They are absolutely vital to society, but you should stay away from them. And if you do interact with them, don't squeeze their stinger. Don't pet them on their butt, because they can bite. So I don't know if it was Brian or someone, but they're like, "Oh, we're doing we have Guido Patrizzi," and I'm like, "Dude, not Guido. That I'm pretty sure." And I'm not from the East Coast, but I'm pretty sure that's a derogatory term for Italians. Yeah. So then I Googled it. Sorry, say that again, Guido. I can't hear you.
Thank you, Jersey Shore.
So I look up the term, and lo and behold, you have a racial slur as a name, and that is, I think, probably the coolest thing ever in our woke society.
I know, right? People are pretty uncomfortable saying it. They're like, "Is that really your name?" I go, "Yeah, man, it's my name." Like, "No, I don't believe you." I'm like, "No, it's my name, guy."
You have any siblings?
I have a sister. She's a normal name. Her name's Angela. So.
Yeah,
Her
I had
name's
a friend.
Cracker. Her name's Cracker, Brian. Cracker and Guido.
No, I had a friend in high school. They were Greek, and his name was Hercules, which is a unique name, and his brother's name was George.
It's a name like that, you got to be jacked.
How about the boys that are called Adonis?
Oh, isn't that Drake's son's name Adonis, right?
Really?
I think so. I think Drake's kid's name's Adonis, and he's no Adonis.
Wow. Drake the rapper, the Jewish rapper.
Yeah, the Canadian.
God, I love it that he's Jewish. That is so awesome. I have three little Jew boys. My wife's Jewish, so I just.
My wife is Jewish too.
Oh no shit! You're a smart man.
That's what I keep hearing.
Why do you think? A friend of mine told me that the success of Jews in society is the fact that they find hard work and intelligence sexy, and so they've bred based on that, and that's why they're successful. Why do you think? And he's kind of joking, but do you see any truth in that? Like, do you see that do you see your wife and her family's ideas? They have cultural ideas that make the Jewish people successful.
I mean, I don't look at it in that type of term. I look at it as like, you surround yourself with people you want to surround yourself with. You don't surround yourself with, shitty people. You surround yourself with positive, goal-setting people, and that's what people tend to go towards when they want to, marry somebody, date somebody. You don't want to be with a shitty person.
How old are you?
I'm 34.
And why did you become a police officer? What was when you were a little kid? Did you go through all the phases that I went through, where you see first when you're really little, you wave at police officers, and then something happens and you avoid police officers like the plague?
My life goal was just to be hired by, like, the movie studios to be the one that teaches the Boston accent to actors, but that didn't work out very well. So I became a cop because that was like the only other option, right? I'm not. I don't have a trade. I was never very handsy. Even today, I have to Google how to use a hammer most of the time. And when I was a kid, it wasn't. I wouldn't say I was a bad kid, but I didn't have a father in my house for a little bit, and then I had my father, and then straightened out really quickly. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
And so tell me about how that creeps into your head that one day you're going to become a police officer.
I think I was just in high school, and I had a run-in with a cop, and I actually got arrested for pretty much a non-crime, something I wouldn't even think about arresting a kid for today, So I saw that happen to me in my experience, and I was in a jail cell, and I'm like, wow, this sucks. Why did they do this to me? I'm not a bad. There's thousands of other people in the city doing bad things. They got me. Why? So I wanted to be somebody that changes that. I don't want to be the cop just hunting people just for the sake of it.
To better society, is that what you were thinking? You're like, hey, I can help humanity here from this position.
More so I can help people and just be a reasonable person in a uniform. And not just like this figure of authority, because that's not who I am to begin with.
And how long have you been a police officer?
I want to say I graduated in 2013 from the academy. So what's that? I'm in 8th year plus now.
Wow, so you started really young.
Yeah. I mean, what was I? I think I was just turning 30-ish when no. So. Yeah, I mean, it was mid-20s, right? Mid to late 20s.
Were you young for the academy?
No, I was actually, in the middle. I'm in the middle kind of group. We have, kids on that job now that are, 22, 23. I'm like, they're kids, I thought I can't grow facial hair. They literally can't grow facial hair.
Yeah, it's amazing. When I was 22, I was probably, I don't know, smoking an eighth of weed a day. I was on the verge. Been in college for 6 or 7 years as an undergraduate. I was on the verge of becoming homeless. And then there's these other kids who already seem to have their shit together, and they're becoming police officers. Do you see a theme? Is that how a lot of the reason why you became a police officer, so that you could make change Is that a theme you see with your peer group, your colleagues?
I'm pretty fortunate. I hear stories from like other friends that are at other PDs, and you get horror stories about the guys they work with, women they work with, and I'm lucky and very fortunate to the city and department that I work for. Is we all kind of grew up together. We're all friends, and we all have the same kind of mindset of being reasonable and just being normal, for lack of a better word, with people. And we're very kind of not passive, but we're very even keeled with people. There's nowhere ever a time where we're like initiating things that are just gonna turn bad,
Is it hard to get back into your? Well, I'm making a presupposition here. You're basically called all day, I'm guessing every day, to situations that don't show human beings in the best light. Like so you might go from one call where a guy was hitting his wife to the next call where a guy's dumping shit out of his truck where he shouldn't be, to a place where kids are throwing rocks at cars, to someone who stole from a liquor store. Is that what your day is like? Is sort of seeing human beings at their lowest point all day long? And if so, how do you switch? Do you ever lose faith in humanity, or do you like, oh my God, we're in trouble?
Yeah, I mean, it runs the gamut. My city's pretty diverse in that sense. We deal with every single thing, from the barking dog to the neighbors that bicker at each other for nonsense to murder and shootings and stabbings, and domestic violence is a big one. Especially now, people are just locked in their house for the most part, and that seems like it's just increasing. So, I mean, as far as like my view on humanity really is not changed. It's just we see the worst of it. We see, for lack of, it's like we see people at their worst, having their worst day ever. How often do you call the cops for anything? You typically don't. And if you do, it's probably really bad. So you're already dealing with that.
Is that a mindset that you guys are taught to embrace, or is that one that you just kind of have personally?
As far as my views towards humanity, or
well, just like when you're called to a situation like that, I mean, it's very easy to go there and be like, oh shit, this fucking guy again is beating his wife. Or you could have the mindset that you talked about and be like, yeah, this is a terrible thing that he's doing, but like you said, he's at his worst day. Obviously, there's something wrong with him, and so you can have a little more empathy in the situation.
Yeah, I mean, you just try to treat people as good as you can. I mean, I try not to. You deal with usually the same 5% of the population every day. It's like you say this, in my 4 days of work, I'm seeing the same person for the same type of thing all 4 days sometimes, So it's easy to get very discouraged in that, but it's also, you kind of got to look at the bigger picture of, this guy or the woman has a problem. What can we do to address it so that he's no longer a problem? Is it find housing or helping them find treatment facilities? We can facilitate those things, but ultimately we can only go so far. It's on the individual to make the change.
Sure. Yeah, I've always wondered if if you're pulling up to a situation like that, if maybe you're with your partner or something, if you guys have a conversation that you're like, all right, and you set that mindset for yourselves before you go in. I know in my life, when I have to have a difficult confrontation, and it's probably nowhere near as difficult as most police confrontations are, that I kind of go through a little routine in my head just to get my mindset right so that I'm as prepared for the encounter as possible. So I don't know if you guys train something like that, talk about it.
Well, we work one-man cars. I mean, usually multiple guys are going either way, but we work one-man guys. On that ride to the call, I'm thinking of the worst thing that could happen. I'm thinking of, am I going to get ambushed? Where I'm going to set up? How I'm going to stand? How I'm going to talk to this guy? If I can be calm with him at first, or do I need to be a little more aggressive with the guy, or whoever? That's my thought process. Is that ultimately I'm thinking about how I'm going to be safe on the scene and setting myself up for success in terms of leaving that call the same way I came into it.
How often do drugs and alcohol play in your calls, and has that gone up since we started these lockdowns and quarantines and this COVID response, what I call the COVID response?
Yeah, I mean, that's 99.9% of the calls are that. But when you look at that, alcoholism and drug use, you look at the deeper issue of mental health issues, and there's just not enough funding in that field these days for people with mental health issues. I mean, people look for a crutch, where everybody looks for that crutch to lean on, and sometimes the only access people have are drugs and alcohol. They don't have access to the therapist or even just a family member, a friend.
I remember taking my driver's ed class. I don't know, 15. I must have been 15 years old before I got my license, and we had a police officer come to our class and speak to us. And he gave some crazy statistic. We had this main thoroughfare in my town called Contra Costa Boulevard. And he gave us this crazy statistic, like after 10 o'clock at night, 2 out of 3 people driving down the street had been drinking. And I don't drink and drive now, but I from whenever I started drinking, 17 years old, I never thought twice about drinking and driving. I would drink and drive, all the time. And and now I have kids. It's just my perspective has changed again. It's just completely unacceptable to me to do anything that would impair your vision, because I see as vehicles as just like such danger. I basically see them as not only modes of transportation, but a good way to kill someone or kill yourself, not on purpose, but so when you go to
from a car accident, COVID,
sorry, say that again.
Actually, there's probably more of a high rate of death from car accidents than COVID or anything else,
Right. And definitely people, COVID is definitely COVID-19. When you get SARS, and obviously if you're unhealthy, as you can see from the stats from the CDC, those are the people who are dying. You got 94% of the people have comorbidities, and 6% of the people they don't have data on. So I'm just going to say it's 100%. But yeah, innocent people can die. By innocent, I mean they weren't complicit in their demise. They weren't doing anything other than crossing the street on a green light, and then all of a sudden a drunk driver hits them. Do you see a lot of drinking? Like what percentage of the calls do you go to, and where there's drugs and alcohol involved?
It's hard to put a number on it, but you can when you go to a domestic and you smell the alcohol in both people's breaths, or you obviously know that's the problem. When you pull up to a car and it just stinks of weed, that's the problem. So it's a lot. It's definitely a lot. I couldn't even put a number on it.
But okay, so you're never surprised. You're not like, holy shit, this guy's drunk.
No, it's like when you go to the same. Oh, we got a call for a guy screaming on the street. Okay, well, chances are he's drunk. No normal person is screaming in the middle of the street for no reason. So you go there, you're like, oh, nope, he's drunk. He's screaming in the street because he's laying down, face down, blacked out drunk.
How serious do you take your own personal health? Since you interact with a lot of different people every day. Obviously, there's no way to completely protect yourself from violence or the coronavirus or whatever. How serious do you take your own personal health?
I take it pretty serious. I think, it's the backbone of everything. Especially when things go bad and you're in the fight for your life. If you're not physically capable of doing that, you're doing yourself such a disservice. And your family, your friends, everybody there, the community, because you're putting yourself at risk for something is 100% controllable. When
you say fight for your life, what do you mean?
Like, say you go to as a cop, you go to a call and you it goes bad. You're fighting. Like, you're in the fight for your life. Someone's reaching for your gun, or you're on your back and someone's punching you, and literally, a lot of people have never been punched in the face. They don't know what that feels like, or been in a fist fight before. And when that happens, what do you do? And if you don't have confidence in yourself physically, how is that going to translate? So I take it seriously. I'm no different than a lot of guys who I work with and around us. We're pretty young, so we all work out regularly, make it part of our routine. You know, on my 4 days of work, I always make it a point to come to work at least, you know, an hour early and get like a good PT session where I'm like typically just doing a lot of running because I go to a CrossFit gym before that where my wife works, and I get worked out there. So I usually work out maybe twice a day on my work days, you know. On my off days, I mean, when I say workout, it's usually the hour CrossFit gym, and then I'll go to, like I said, I go to work about an hour early and hit the treadmill for like 20, 30 minutes, get a really good sweat, get out of breath, you know.
You and your wife have been around the CrossFit space for a while, huh?
I started pretty much right when I got in the police force. You know, you know it's expensive. You know, I had a job before working in the kids' jail. It wasn't the most lucrative of jobs working for the state, but you know it is what it is. And once you start being able to make some money, you can afford to do things like CrossFit. You know, so I've been in it since at least 2013, 14, maybe. I think actually, you know what? I think what was the open announcement with Fraser and Froning with the clean and jerk? What was that? 15?
Yeah, 2015. That's the first year that you have on your profile for the Open. But I know a lot of people sometimes be doing CrossFit prior to sign up for their first Open. Is that?
I didn't even know like how competitive it was until like I didn't know like the Open and stuff. Like when I was in college in 2010, 9ish when I graduated. You saw it on TV, and I was like, oh, this looks cool. So like something I'd be into, and then I Google it, and I look at the price. I'm like, oh, that's way out of my realm, man. And I went to school in Framingham, and lo and behold, to me, knowing what I know now, CrossFit New England was down the street, and they offer internships for kids, and I had no idea of even what an internship for fitness was, let alone CrossFit internship. So knowing what I know now.
You were a football player throughout high school and maybe college, right?
Yeah, I played 4 years high school and 4.5 of my 5 years of college.
Wow.
So you were training, you know, and in shape prior to discovering CrossFit.
Yeah, I mean when I played football in college, my freshman and sophomore year were probably my better years. I was a little bit healthier. And then I had like a little bit of an injury in my back, and I couldn't lift and work out the way I used to, so I put on some weight. So I lost a lot of like speed, and I didn't play much my junior and senior year because of that, amongst other things. But mostly it was because of like my physical decline in that sense. But I played, you know, I made it through, and I played.
I mean, you and I have a pretty similar storyline there. I mean, I was a college athlete from 2008 to 11, and I had no soccer, but I had no awareness of CrossFit at that time. And then a couple years after that, a few teammates of mine found CrossFit, and they convinced me to try it out. And it like totally shifted the way that I trained. But that was because, you know, I just happened to have coaches that didn't believe in weight training, which wasn't necessarily mandatory for soccer the way it would be for football. But certainly as an adult, once I started actually incorporating weight training into my exercising routine, and I've played in men's league soccer, and it's very advantageous to have like broader shoulders and a stronger frame as you're rubbing shoulders with guys on the soccer field. Did that change for you? Did your training methodology or thoughts around your coaches and how they trained you when you were playing football? You're like, man, if I had known this stuff earlier, I could have been a better player potentially.
Oh, absolutely. It's not even a question. Like the focus was on bench, squat, biceps, doing like bodybuilding and trying to get as big and strong as possible. Like at one point I was benching 405 for a couple reps, and but I was also 230 pounds at 5'9", so I was like little bowling ball pretty much.
Fullback.
What position did you play?
In college I played linebacker. I played middle linebacker. So, but yeah, I mean, knowing what I know now, if I trained the way I do now, back then, I would have been a completely different player. I think it would have completely shifted my game and made me such a better player. Like I barely squatted and deadlifted back then, and I could definitely use it back then. It would have probably made a huge difference in like tackling and shedding blocks and ultimately durability. Because if you have a weak core, you're gonna get hurt a lot.
Is the area you're in politically pretty liberal?
Um,
When I think of Boston, I think of
yeah, Massachusetts. It's more progressive, definitely. Which is good. I mean, I wouldn't classify myself so much as a conservative or a liberal. I'm somewhere in the middle. I believe obviously my job, so I'm a little bit more conservative when it comes to like laws and order and sentencing and stuff like that for crimes. But ultimately I'm super socially liberal. Like, you want to smoke marijuana in our state, you can do it. It's legal. It's recreationally legal as long as you're of age. Medically legal. So go for it. It doesn't bother me as long as you're not driving around high. Same thing as drinking. But it's socially, I'm like super almost to the left, like to the point where I'm like a Bernie Sanders guy. But I think healthcare should be mostly affordable and access to everybody, and education is a big one for me that I think should be almost free for everybody.
Healthcare. Two things. Healthcare is a really weird one because I keep seeing that over and over. I keep seeing healthcare free for everyone. And sure, I love that idea. But here's the problem. 86% of all the money that's spent in the United States on healthcare is problems that the healthcare system does not have the solution for. So you get type 2 diabetes and you go to the hospital. They do not have the cure for you. That's the fucking problem. The problem is that our healthcare system is being used for something that they are not equipped to do. By that I mean they give you insulin, and there's tons of stories out there of the few, and I really hope I'm wrong. Feel free to yell at me in the comments. But the few doctors that actually speak to their patients and say, hey, actually, you don't need to take insulin. What you need to do is change your diet. And that way you won't need insulin. They get in trouble for saying that. Or the doctors themselves don't even know that, right? Because they're told, they're not biologists, most of them. They're not scientists. And they're told that the cure is to give, or, the steps as they look at the flow chart. Okay, this guy comes in, he has a high A1C, he's exhibiting signs of type 2 diabetes. And so that's the crazy part. I think the health care system is overfunded. But the problem is that we're calling firefighters to do the policeman's job, and we're calling policemen, metaphorically speaking, to do the firefighter's job. Those poor people went in there to save people's lives, right? Let's say like you get shot. Now we need a doctor. But the other 86%, and that's 14% of the medical expenditure, is things that doctors can actually do. And then the other part about free education that I trip on is that nothing is free, right? Yeah, there's a cost for everything, and I see politicians say that we should make schools free for everyone, and I just wish that there was a little more honesty in the dialogue. I mean, that would be great too if people didn't have to pay for college, but the fact is that it's not free, right? And I think people
paying, and it's going to be everybody paying on tax, and that's the problem. No one wants to pay more taxes, and I don't want to pay more taxes. That's for sure. I doubt you guys do. We all got families to support and things we want to enjoy, and we need money.
Right. When something, I didn't think this until I started seeing all the defund, the sort of the defund police movement. But when I saw that, I started looking more and more at police, and I realized that there is the big problem is that it's for societies is it feels like it's us and them, when really it's a partnership. We pay taxes because we want policemen to be hired to help protect us and to enforce the laws that we believe make civilization move smoothly. So like a red light means stop, and we need everyone to follow those rules so that we don't have car accidents, right? and I have a fence around my yard that I don't want strangers to come into, and I need police officers to help me sort of enforce these laws. And I feel like the problem isn't the police. I feel like the problem is society doesn't realize that it's a partnership. That like, yeah. Like, imagine hiring a gardener to mow your lawn and then locking your gate shut and then getting upset at him that he didn't come in and mow your lawn. It's like, well, wait a minute. that doesn't make any sense. It's the same thing with, like, we hire ambulances to move people around, and then they're rushing down the highway, and we have that social contract track to pull over on the right as fast as we can and safely get out of the way so that the ambulance can take one of our brethren to the hospital. And I just to just start at something basic, as benign as this is, how many times on a shift does someone thank you or say hi to you? Does that happen every single day?
Honestly, since the whole thing started, last summer, it's actually been a lot. I won't even lie. You can't even. A lot of people I've been on the side of the road doing a traffic post, and people will stop me like, hey, I just want to say thank you for what you do, and you're appreciated and stuff like that. It means a lot. It does, because like you try not to watch the news, you try not to feel the pressure of the media, but you can't ignore it. And ultimately, it's always the loudest ones in the rooms yelling at you and telling you you're doing a bad job and trying to like beat you down, more or less. So it is nice, and to when people come up and say, thank you, I appreciate it. It's nice as opposed to a parent coming up and grabbing their kid and saying this is the one that's gonna arrest you. I'm like, no, stop.
Does that happen?
It happens, and I try to as nicely as I can say no. I'm not gonna arrest you, and if you need me, you call me. I'm your friend. We're not. That's something that I think it's like an older thing. It's like an older tradition. It's like when you walk in the store and people go, "Oh, it wasn't me." I'm like,
right.
Yeah.
Well, that makes me happy to say that, and I've definitely upped my game. When I see police officers, like if I'm in line at the store and they're in there, I definitely have gone out of my way in the most sincere way I can to thank every single one. And I think it's really important. It's not a job that most people want. I don't want that job. It sounds really, really, really hard, right?
It's definitely not easy. It's not. It's the greatest job in the world, but it's ultimately the hardest in the world. You're asked to do so much with so little sometimes. You just do the best that you can.
Why do you say it's the greatest job?
Everything about it. I mean, I'm paid to interact with people. I'm the type of person that if I was in a cubicle, I'd be punching the walls, like trying to get out. I couldn't do it. I can't. Sitting down right now, I'm like fidgeting, moving. I have to crack my knuckles, do something. So it gives me that freedom to just like, if I want to drive around, I can drive around. If I want to get out of the car, I can get out of the car and walk around and talk to people. No one's ever going to put the kibosh on that, And when it's good, it really is good. When you help somebody and it actually changes them and it gives them something, then yeah, then it's good. When it's bad, but it's still pretty good.
I live in Santa Cruz, California. It's about 70 miles south of San Francisco. And one of my dear friends is a police officer here, sheriff in town. And he actually he said the same thing you did. He said a little differently, but the sentiment was the same. He said that his job is the cornerstone of his job is talking to people all day long. And like, that's one of the most important things about being a police officer is being able to talk to people. And it's funny, I had never thought of that.
Yeah, it's all we do is talk. That's it. We talk. We go to calls, we're talking to people, we answer the phone, we're talking to people. That's why when I get home, I just sit in silence. My wife's like, "Can we talk?" I'm like, I need a minute. I need a minute. She always gives me shit.
Another friend of mine, and I had her on the podcast. She's a 20-year veteran. She's a lieutenant at a different police department north of me. She's on the SWAT team. I think she might even be the captain of her SWAT team. And I asked her, I said, would you want your daughter to be a police officer? And she said, before all of this went down, the George Floyd thing went down, that sort of lit the fuse, she would have said absolutely. But now that the George Floyd thing went down, she said the job has gotten just really, really hard. And,
how old? My first question would be, how old is she?
Do you know how old she is, Brian? Do you know who I'm talking about?
No.
Oh, I want to say she's. Well, she won the CrossFit Games in 2006.
There wasn't a CrossFit Games in 2006, but I do know who you're talking about now. And
2007.
She's got to be 45 to 50.
Yeah,
maybe. So she's probably towards the tail end of her career, and she's seen, you know, the complete shift where it was like no cameras, no cell phones, everybody having a full like recording studio in their hands, you know. So I can see that, you know. I wouldn't want, if, you know, I don't have any kids, but if I did, I would paint them, try to get them somewhere else. And, you know, everybody loves a firefighter if you want to get in the field. You ever seen Andrew? if you ever seen an unhappy fireman, I've never seen one, so I would point them in that direction more so. But it's just a different job now. People, you know, it's different for me because I grew up with the internet. I remember being a kid in like AOL dial-up internet and cameras, and, you know, I've seen the full evolution of like technology to the up till today, and I've lived with it. We all live with it now. So it's not anything different for me because the accountability for me has always been there. And the camera and phones make it more so. So some people struggle with that because, you know, for whatever reason. For us, I know with the people I work with, it's not an issue. People are who they are, and it doesn't bother them that we're being recorded or people are calling on you and this and that.
I've had we have some police officers who train at the gym I work at also, and last summer they had some pretty interesting stories specifically with regards to people like pulling up to the scene they were at and pulling out their phone and trying to record them. And they were like, these people, it seems like they have an agenda, like they're trying to catch you, you know? I remember this guy, he told me.
Everyone wants to be the YouTube sensation, you know? Everyone wants to be the one that has the video that makes it big off that video. But if you're filming me,
and it's really, and it's nice actually, like you said, there are a lot of people out there that are very appreciative of cops. He was telling me one story. It's that there was a guy on the side of the road who had a flat tire. So he pulled over, he was on the highway, pulled over, you know, behind him, put his lights on. So it was a more safe environment, of course. And it was, gets out to try to see if he can help him, whatever. And this woman pulls up in the right lane of traffic on a highway, pulls down her window, shoots her phone out there and says, "What are you doing to that man?" It was a man of color. And the man of color and the police officer both look at her like, what? And he goes, "She's helping me with the flat tire." And he said the look of disappointment on the woman's face was incredulous to me as she drove away. It's like, what?
By the way, my words, not your guys' words, ladies and gentlemen, that is racist. That is someone who thinks they're not racist, who is racist as fuck. Okay, sorry, my words, not your guys' words. That is what you call looking at someone based on their color. That's judging people by their color. That's the KKK's. I don't even know this. I'm making this up. I haven't read their manifesto. But that is the KKK's manifesto, to judge people by their color, when clearly you should only judge people by the size of their nose.
Clearly. Me and you would be number one for me too.
I'm king.
I don't know. I'm pretty close.
Where did your dad go? What happened? Where did your dad go in your life? In the beginning, you said your dad was gone for a little while. Where did he go?
So when I was a kid, my parents got divorced. So it is,
Normal.
Yeah. So
mine too.
And I was a young kid. I don't even remember how old I was. I was very young. One of my earliest memories was with my mom going, "Okay, this is you're gonna go with your dad." I'm like, "What's that?" All right. And he showed up. I'm like, "Oh, you're my dad." All right. And it was, whatever. It wasn't weird or anything. He took me shopping for like my birthday. And I was like, "All right, cool." And but he had his own issues with substance abuse and probably some other things in his life. He had a rough childhood, so he wasn't around for a little bit portion of my life that I remember. And then when I was introduced to him, it was an every weekend kind of thing. And yeah.
Is he still alive?
Yeah, my dad's alive. We talk, we text every day, or every couple of days I check in on him, and I moved in with him when I was in like 8th grade. Him and his girlfriend, fiance, turned to his second wife at the time, and kind of changed my life having 2 people in the house. But yeah.
And that's a little weird that you would leave your mom in the 8th. So your mom raised you until a certain age. You didn't know who your dad was.
In fairness to my mother, I was not the easiest child. In fairness to my mother, I was not the easiest child. So it was probably pretty easy to go, okay, I need a break from you. I'm sure she got tired of the school calling saying, "Oh, Guido punched this kid today," or "Guido swore at this teacher today, and he's going to be an in-house suspension," or "Yeah, he can't come to school for a couple of weeks until he relaxes." And she was my mother. I give credit to my mother. She was a single parent and did the best she could. She wasn't around a lot. She was always working, so I didn't have someone around to keep me in check.
It's my parents. I think for sure my mom has told me that I was the most amazing kid that ever fucking walked the planet until I turned 13. And when I turned 13, I think the word was you turned into an asshole. And that's about the 8th grade, right? That's about the 8th grades.
I think it was reversed to me. I think my parents, when I turned 21, they're like, "Oh, you're normal. Okay, we can deal with you now."
So your mom, and when you said your mom, do you have siblings?
I have a sister. Yeah, she's 4 years older than me.
Okay, and so you grew up with her, and so were you a latchkey kid? Do you remember coming home by yourself, like in the 6th grade, coming home and?
Yeah, I was. I'd ride my bike to school, and then I wouldn't be back at home until God knows when, well past the lights being off. So it'd be and doing whatever I wanted to do because there was no one to tell me otherwise. She would try to. My mother would try to punish me, and it really wouldn't work. I would try to charm her, and it would always work to get out of being grounded or whatever.
God, it sounds like I didn't get out of being grounded, but that basically sounds like my childhood. Basically, at some point, the babysitter stopped. I don't know how young, but very young, and then I just rode my bike everywhere, and then came home, and my mom wouldn't get home to work until 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. I'd be in the house by myself.
My mother worked at a bar, and she still does. So she would be 3, 4 in the morning. She wouldn't get home, So I was really just on my own with my sister. But my sister was, a teenager at the time, so she was being a teenager too, So she wasn't around, so it was really just me and learning from my friends or whoever I was hanging out with at the time to survive.
And then what changed when you moved in with your dad in the 8th grade? What did he do? What was it like?
First thing, my stepbrother, he played football, and first thing they did was he needs to get this energy somewhere, so they put me in football and turned into a natural thing for me to play football, So it gave me some type of structure, and there was an emphasis with my stepmother, to do well in school so you can go to college and continue education. Because my dad worked with his hands, he still does, and destroyed his body. And he's on the best shape right now. So,
was he able to overcome his addictions?
Oh yeah. My dad, I don't even think he's had more than one drink ever that I've seen him have. And it's usually on his birthday he'll have a little. I think one time he ordered a Long Island iced tea, and I'm looking at him what the hell are you ordering? But it wasn't it was more oh, I can do this and I can be normal, this isn't a problem for me. But it's not he drinks regularly anymore or anything like that. It's a once in a 10-year thing. Oh, okay, I can be normal. I can do this and control it. So it's more him trying it so that he can. I feel as though so he knows he can control it, and he can.
Yeah, wow, that's a great story. It's amazing. I don't know what the stats are, but it's got to be pretty low to not have one of your parents in your life as a child and then build a relationship that sounds like your relationship with your dad, who you text or speak to every day or every other day. It's pretty awesome. Good job. I'm guessing a lot of that has to do with him, but also a lot of that has to do with you, the effort you put in, right? I mean, it's effort. You put it in to maintain that relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, because, you get old, you get busy in your own stuff, and you got to I have people I need to talk to regularly. I have to talk to my parents. I have to talk to my dad, my mother, my stepmother. I got to talk to these people, my sister.
How do you think that was instilled in you?
I don't think it was necessarily instilled in me. It's just something I always felt compelled to do. There's been, me and my mother and my father, we don't have the best of relationships. I don't want to paint this picture we're this perfect family. We're really not. We try our best. So I try to make it a point to talk to them, because there's been periods of time where there was I want to say for the better part of 3 years ago, me and my father just didn't talk. Some stuff happened or whatever, and we just didn't talk. And it was no fault of each other. It's just we're kind of the same person. We're stubborn. We kind of hold grudges, but not really. But we're very difficult to deal with, on the emotional level. We're just kind of not there sometimes. So it takes a little bit to suck up your pride and go, okay, I'm gonna reach out.
There was a point in my life, I don't remember how old I was in my 20s, and I made this vow to myself to never say no to my parents again. It was just a weird kind of I was like, okay, my parents are going to ask me to come over to their house and help them put together a lamp, or they're going to tell me, hey, I need to come over to their house and do A, B, or C. Because my whole life I just said no. My dad would be like, hey, go in the backyard and dig a hole. I want to plant some lemon trees, dig 3-foot deep holes. And I'd be like, no. And everything, my automatic response was no. And so at some point I made a conscious decision in my life, you know what? They're my parents, and this is a kind of a cool practice to put on myself. I'm just going to start making sure that I always say yes. So my dad came over to my house the other day, and I have this grapevine that's over these 2 arbors, and I've spent the last 3 years training it to weave in and out of all of the trellis. And my dad comes over and he's like, hey, do you mind if I trim your grapevine? And I'm like, go ahead. And I remember him hating his dad trimming shit in the garden, hating it. My dad would come in the house and be so fucking angry at the shit my grandfather did. And I go out there, in my 3 years of meticulous training of this grapevine through the trellis, completely destroyed. 200 twist ties pulled down and set in a pile on the ground, and my grapevine is completely just neutered. And it's probably the way, he probably pruned it in the way that he thinks will give the best amount of grapes, but that's not what I was going for. But I just, I'm like, fuck it. It's my dad, and he wants to do this, and it's whatever. It's easier just to suck it. Not even easier. There's something in me that just feels like it's the right thing. I just reached a mature enough age where it's hey, my parents' happiness is important to me over everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. It comes with age, right? You at an older age, you realize oh, my parents are getting old. There's our time to be good to each other and be around is slowly being taken away from us. So we need to, maximize that time with them.
Yeah, there is an age as a human being where everything is everyone else's fault, which is really cool. But if you were to develop into a complete human being, at a certain age you have to flip the entire script, and everything is your fault. And maybe some people aren't going to like the word fault, but it's your duty to respond to it in a healthy way that makes it better. And there's really no time for bitching.
Yeah, you're really just checking your ego.
And taking personal responsibility, right?
Being self-deprecating, be like, what, this is my fault.
Yeah.
This issue is my fault. I have to address it.
And even if it's not your fault, the solution is your responsibility.
You have to find a way to fix it.
A friend of mine, Travis Bajent, told me one time, I was probably my early 30s. He said to me, anything a man does sexually, if it surprises you, you do not understand men. And that really, like, I was like, holy shit. Like, and you can think of the craziest, most violent acts to the least violent. But I was like, okay, I agree with that. If you do not understand men, if anything they did sexually surprised you. And then as I got older and that really stuck with me, I thought, oh shit, anything that a man does who's between the ages of, and I'm making this up, this is arbitrary, 16 and 35, anything they do, from the most vile, heinous crimes on the planet to the most benign shit, and they could do them back to back, if it surprises you, you don't understand men. So where am I going with this? My point is that men who are young men should not be left upon their own accord. There is if you were to put Brian and Guido and I together at 17 years old, we could be the nicest boys ever, you know, help old ladies across the street, always take the trash out for our mom. But if you left us on the side of the street next to a pile of rocks, Guido would start juggling the rocks. And then Brian would be like, hey, I think what?
I would be the one to throw him at class first.
Yeah, okay. Brian would be juggling the rocks. And then Guido would say, hey, watch this. I bet you I can hit that sign across the street with a rock. And then I would be like, hey, dude, that's nothing. That sign's standing still. I could hit that car. And next thing you know, we'd be throwing rocks, and we wouldn't give it a fucking second thought about it, whether it being right or wrong. That's just the way young men are, people. We have crazy, crazy amounts of energy, and we have to use it. And whether it's sitting in front of a TV and eating nonstop bags of Cheetos and becoming 150 pounds overweight and dying at the age of 42 from a heart attack, that energy will be spent. I believe that our society, that one of the biggest hindrances to society is the fact that we're not keeping our young men busy. They need organization, and they need structure, they need guidance, they need to be doing things. They need good habits. We are freaks. You have to understand that, like, once we start deciding that we want to procreate, and it creeps into us even before we know what procreation was, you know, right? That's why I liked my kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Allen. I didn't know why I liked her, but I always wanted her to come home with me, you know what I mean, and give me a bath and, like, tuck me in, and, like, I knew something was going on. And she never did, by the way. But, and I hear that, your story is just classic. Here's a kid going through up until the 8th grade. He's at home just trying to figure out life on his own. And you're basically feeling around in the dark, and you have all of these hormones pumping through you. And then you get a stepbrother and a dad, and they lead you to football. And now you have something to really put that energy into. And if you don't give young men that energy, if you do go into a society, and I've been to countries where you drive down the street, specifically I was in Kenya, and I remember driving down the street, and on every street corner, there would be, in Mombasa, there would be these 10 to 30 young men hanging out, you know? And I just remember thinking, holy shit, that can't be good for a society. that young men need to be busy. So as you travel around, as you police your city, does any of that, what I said, resonate with you? That you see a lot of the people getting into mischief as being young men? And I'm not even saying that as a bad thing. That's the mistake. People think it's a bad thing. Of course, their actions are bad, but, like, you can't expect more from young men.
Yeah, I see kids all the time, and I look at them, I go, why are you walking around aimlessly? Football practice is going on right now. Track practice, basketball practice. You know, how are you not involved in something? I go, at some point, walking up and down the street all day is just counterproductive and going to lead you nowhere. You know, even if you don't like the sport of football or something, you don't like basketball, you guys still got to try it to know you don't really like it. Because, you know, I didn't like CrossFit when I first, it sucked, but you grow to love it, and you find that without that, you have really nothing else to do. Like if I didn't find CrossFit, I'd probably be 300 pounds, 6 feet wide, and just a slob, more or less. I wouldn't be doing anything. Like you said, I would get it. My type of personality is I need something to do and something to focus on. So if it's not CrossFit, or if it's not boxing, if it's not MMA or some video gaming or whatever, what am I going to get into? If it's not something positive, it's got to be negative. So,
Guido, are you still actually boxing?
Well, with COVID, yeah, I haven't been able to. I mean, the gym is operating. I trained at a Muay Thai MMA gym, City of Tong in Somerville. Somerville's super, super, super liberal, so they kind of gave them a hard time opening up. So I'm not even 100% sure if they're opening up right now to the public or anything. Like, I didn't have a membership. I would do like drop-ins, and I was friendly with the coach, so he would kind of train me. But I just don't have the time, more or less, now. But I would love to.
When was the last fight? When was the last fight you did?
When was that? That was what? It was like August of 2021, 2019, I want to say. 2019.
It seems like, just scrolling through Instagram, it seems like those fights are some of the things that get you most fired up.
Fighting is probably the hardest thing someone can do, especially like where you think about the risk. Like, say, okay, yeah, I'm going to take a boxing match, sure. Now throw on, everyone's going to watch it. Well, who's everybody? Everyone you work with, your friends, your family, they're all going to come out and watch you. They're going to be in person. Do you want to get knocked out in front of them, or do you want to put on a good show and put out your... with cops, that if I got knocked out, there was no way there wouldn't be memes of me hanging up at the station knocked out or something, like Nate Robinson was.
Ouch.
It's definitely something that you have to put your all into. You can't half-ass taking a fight. So it's something that you train extra hard for. It's not like, I'm training for, the Open, where like I have no shot going to the games or regional RIP regionals. So
Sure, yeah, you can you can do those workouts at home. You don't need to publicize them for anyone if you don't want to. But the boxing ring, it looked like, I don't know what level. I'm not sure what level you ended up like actually fighting at, but it looked like there were a decent amount of people even there live in the stadiums or the arenas.
Oh yeah, there was both the shows were packed with people. The adrenaline of that, it's insane. So I can only imagine. Like, I think Josh is fighting Jacob Hepner.
I think they're the undercard for the Mountain and Eddie Hall.
Yeah, that's going to be a freak show to begin with. Big enough to hold them.
Have you watched any of Josh's boxing footage?
Yeah.
Are you concerned for him, or do you like, oh no, he has some skills, or? Be honest.
No, when I look at it face value, Josh Bridges, Jacob Hepner, I see Josh, Navy SEAL, like one of the better CrossFit athletes, of his time, and I see Mr. Nice Guy, vanilla ice cream, Jacob Hepner, super friendly. I can't even picture that guy having a mean bone in his body, let alone raising his voice to somebody, let alone throwing a punch at somebody. So I see that at face value. I go, you know what? Josh is probably going to win. And I'm no expert at boxing. If you watch the fight, they're on YouTube, but if you watch them, I'm more, if I had to put it on a scale type of thing, I'm more, remember in Rocky 1 when he was fighting in the church? Right, the open.
Yeah. You're awesome, Guido.
That I am Canelo, So I'm no like polished thing. My punches are looping. They're from my chest, and I'm no.
But you better hope I don't land one though, right?
Yeah, like I'm gonna give you my I'm more Nick Diaz than I am like Junior Dos Santos in his prime, you know, where I'm not one punch power. I'm just throwing. I'm constantly throwing. I think my buddy, like, there was the second fight, my buddy was like, dude, you threw like 500 punches. I'm like, I feel like I threw 10. I don't know.
What advice would you give to those guys? Like, my thought is this: they're doing all this boxing training, but they're going to go in there and there's not going to be any boxing. It's just going to turn into a fight. Like, everything's just going to go out the window, and it's basically going to be, yeah.
Ultimately, it's a fist fight. It's two guys, no training really, just fighting. And the only advice is don't let the. I mean, I don't. They're fighting in a. Are they going to be fans there or no?
I believe there will be fans. I believe it's going to be in Vegas. I suspect it's going to sell out. Yeah, I just, to be completely honest, since he's my friend, I don't like the idea of him doing it. I need him for the podcast. I don't need him fucking like coming back and like having a slur.
No, it'll be fine. If he made it through buds and deployments, there's no. I mean, a boxing match is going to be a cakewalk. It's just like the moment. Don't let the moment get too big, and try not to let that adrenaline dump happen. And don't come out throwing everything. The first.
Tell me about the adrenaline dump. What's the adrenaline dump?
That's crazy. I mean, it's nothing. It's like post, like how you feel doing Fran after. Like that's like what it feels like. Kind of like you're all the way at 100, and after like the first 3 punches happen, and you get hit, and you go back to your corner, and you're like, what just happened? And then you're just low. It's a tough to get back up to that level.
Do you experience that in your work a lot?
Yeah, I mean, it happens a lot. I mean, there was you know,
you get a call that's crazy, and then afterwards you're like, oh shit, what the fuck just happened?
It happens a lot. Like we went to a call recently. It was pretty bad, and it was really bad. And I think it was after, like later in the night, we were talking, and someone was like, "Oh yeah, I remember that." I'm like, "You were there?" They're like, "Yeah, I was talking to you." I'm like, "Dude, I don't even remember having a conversation with you. You just get lost in that moment, and it's really is like tunnel vision. You don't even realize it till after the fact." Like I was talking to a guy, and he was like, "Yeah, I mean, I helped you do this." I'm like, "Dude, I don't even remember seeing you. Are you sure?" I'm like, yeah. And then like the next day you wake up. I woke up that next day like the most beat down I've ever felt in my life. Like I woke up like, what just happened? Then I had to go back to work and do it all over again. It's something that like it's undescribable. Like that level of fatigue and mental exhaustion. It's the mental exhaustion thing is super, super, super underrated, and something that like you don't even acknowledge until it happens to you.
Tell me what define mental exhaustion for me? Is that like
just being like done, like mentally just I can't even describe it. It was like an undescribable feeling. I woke up the next day and it was rough. Like the level of, I felt I probably slept. I think my Whoop said I slept for like 7 hours. I felt like I slept for maybe like 20 minutes max, and I woke up completely zombified, like not even knowing what day it was.
Do you see something on the job every day that you've never seen before?
You get shocked a lot. Definitely, you're like, oh, this happens, okay, and you get exposed to a lot. Definitely, I'm never really surprised anymore. It takes a lot to surprise me. So I don't know. I mean, sometimes it's like, whoa, this happens.
Do you remember the first time you showed up somewhere and there was someone dead?
Not specifically, but you do remember the times you encounter like a dead body or someone like that. It's definitely something that like time after time after time after time you see it, you get like desensitized by it, but it's something that you definitely that beats on you towards the accumulation of it is something that will take a toll on you. Like you kind of get desensitized to it during the time that you.
I was in Isla Vista, California. I was in my 20s. I was making a TV show there, and I walked up right on this scene as this guy had just drove his car into a crowd of, I don't know, 1,000 people, and he killed 5 people. And I was rolling the camera, and he jumps out of the car, and he goes, "I meant to do that. I'm the angel of death." And the fucking crowd's going crazy, and it's just fucking complete insanity. Half the crowd is trying to beat him to death, and the other half the crowd is trying to protect him, right? Like, no, wait till the police get here. And I'm going around and checking the bodies to make sure if there's anyone alive. Like, should I sit down with anyone? Should I hold their hand? Like, what should I do? And I'm trying to film the situation at the same time. And the bodies, I couldn't even, like faces smashed in or torsos twisted on the body pointing the wrong way. And I remember seeing all of this and just being in the moment. And then a couple hours later, or maybe an hour later, the police came. They apprehended the guy. They took him away. And then I went back to my girlfriend's house, who's now my wife. And I remember being in bed and thinking, I started like losing my shit. Like I had just done 20 hits of acid. Like I couldn't even believe what my brain was doing. I felt like I was just floating off into outer space. Like I could not believe what I had seen. But what?
It's that tunnel vision. Like you don't.
But in the moment, it was no big deal. Yeah, in the moment, I was just there. But then afterwards, as my brain was trying to process what I saw, I couldn't process it. And I had this – it was the craziest night of sleep ever. I was terrified. I thought like basically I was in a dream. I was like basically losing touch with reality.
There's times where there's triggers for me, like it's something simple as like, eating like a chicken wing or breaking a chicken wing off and feeling that snap. And then if you're doing CPR on somebody, you feel that snap because you're breaking that rib. That's when you're doing kind of CPR right. Is like, because you got to be forceful with it. And that's something that always triggers me when I'm like, like I said, eating chicken. I'm like, oh, I hear that. And I remember that. You remember that feeling and you remember that sound, and it just triggers you to thinking like stuff like that.
Yeah, it's I bet you, speaking for myself, but I bet you 99% of society can't even fathom or hasn't fathomed all the different things that police officers see. Because, on TV we just see the exciting homicides or the cat caught in a tree. But we don't see all the millions of things that fall in between those two pieces.
Yeah, it runs the gamut.
Guido, how important is it, do you think, in the life of a police officer to have, a supportive wife or woman or partner back home? It seems like you have a great relationship with your...
It's huge. It really, she does so much for me. Like, just as far as like just cooking, knowing that I get home at midnight or 1, I know there's food in the fridge and I know I can eat and not have to worry about cooking or shopping or doing stuff like that. Or I just know that when I come home, everything's set. She's kind of like the glue for me. So,
in your case, she's probably
why guys like when they go home and they have no one to go home to, and they open the fridge and there's a 6-pack of beer in there, and that's their crutch. That turns into a problem. So I can see that in that sense. It's definitely important to have somebody home.
I think in your case, you probably have even a greater advantage when it comes to the cooking. Doesn't she work for Working Against Gravity? Or did she used to?
She got during COVID, her gym was shut down, so she took the course and she's certified now, and she actually does. She has like, I want to say like 13 or 14 people that she does nutrition for every day, and it's like another job for her, so it keeps her busy. And I'll be honest, I eat whatever I want for the most part. I can't be controlled when it comes to food. That's like 99% of the reason I work out the way I do is just so I can eat. I got a problem, but it's either it's it. So
how old are you again? 32?
34.
34. So I found CrossFit at 34, and I remember I was exactly the same way. Oh shit, I really want to eat a pint of ice cream tonight and watch a movie. I guess I'll work out twice. I'll pay the man up front.
like I eat, I try to keep it like 6 days a week. I try to eat as carnivore as possible. The carnivore diet. So I try to. Yep. So it's like no carbs and just meat and eggs and poultry, whatever. And I try to do that 6 days a week, and then the 7th day, I open the floodgates and I'm eating tacos or my big thing is pizza. I love pizza. Love it. Love it. Love it. So that's my thing.
Even though there's no violence in my life, like zero, I've lived this really benign, happy life. Everywhere I go, shit's fucking roses and puppy dogs. When I really enjoy being out with healthy people, with strong people, with capable people. And so if my life is roses and puppy dogs, I could only imagine how important it is to you that your team, that your police department has a lot of healthy and fit people. Can you talk to me about that, how important that is to you? Not only the responsibility you feel to be the best you can be to support your brothers and sisters out there, but what it feels like when you're out there with someone who's healthy versus someone who's not healthy?
It definitely helps you. If you go into a call with somebody that doesn't take care of themselves, when it goes bad. You're gonna have to. I think that I have to take over and be like the lead guy. It makes it a lot easier when you go into a bad call and you have like 4 guys that are all fit and jacked and at least can run a mile without dying. So definitely it affects you. Like physical fitness, it's all confidence, right? You do it to feel good and capable. If I have somebody next to me that doesn't feel fit, strong, capable, that's gonna definitely change things, And it's kind of a disservice to everybody. I see guys that don't take care of themselves. It's something that you look at and you're like, wow, I'm gonna have to be better at that call than you are because I that's my responsibility now because you can't take care of yourself. Guys, it should be kind of common practice, but guys get lost. Like you see guys in the academy come out fit, strong. 3 months later, you got their bellies are hanging over their belts. It's like what happened? What shifted? It's nothing changed. The academy hours are pretty much the same as work hours. You're still there 40 hours a week. What's the difference? Like you're in the academy, you're forced to PT. Here, you're not, but it should be routine at that point. It's kind of sad that it gets to that point that no one works out still. There's guys that go to the gym and drink their pre-workout and walk around and say they go to the gym or say they work out. There's a difference between saying you work out and actually working out. So are you at the gym doing a bro split and doing chest and buys and leaving as opposed to going to a CrossFit gym and smashing yourself and getting to the point where you are, have trouble breathing because you're so smashed. At least
something that transfers to your work.
Yeah, that guy when stuff goes bad, he's gonna have that crutch to lean on. His conditioning, his strength, his overall body fitness, as opposed to a guy that has big biceps, a big chest, but can't squat 135.
Do you ever talk to these guys? Like, do you ever encourage them? Like, are you like, hey, dude, come to the gym with me? Or do you try to recruit them? I've had 2 guys that I kind of trained, and both of them reached out to me because they know I work out or whatever, and they're like, hey, I want to. One of them was like flat out, I got to make a change. I'm like, yeah, no, I'll help you, and now it's like part of his routine, and it's been like 2 years with him, and he's pretty much it's part of his life now. He just makes it a point to at least 40 minutes a day. He gets a sweat in, and it's typically like a CrossFit workout. Like I had him one of the first workout I had him do, just to because I wanted to see what he had. It was the evil smile of a CrossFitter. Go on.
So I had him do triple threes because we have a rower at the station. He can't do double under, so we did singles, and we have the runner. So it took him. I'm like, listen, the cap's gonna be after he didn't know they don't know terms like AMRAPs, caps, EMOM. So I'm like, listen, the cap's gonna be 45 minutes. He's like, I usually go to the gym for an hour. We're talking about 45 minutes. I'm like, listen.
You're a bad person, Guido.
Yeah. Listen, if you're still working out after 45 minutes doing this, and you have anything left, knowing how I know you look, God bless you. But we're gonna stop it at 45 minutes. So he hits that and he's a puddle after on the ground, like what's happening? What? This is terrible. I go, yeah, but tomorrow you'll feel a lot better knowing you did that. And he's one of my good friends, so I break his balls all the time. He's always asking me like for workouts. I give him like what I'll do for that day, but scale it down. Which is he texted me yesterday. I need a workout for the day. What should I do? I go, well, I sent him what I did, which was at the CrossFit gym I go to in Woburn, where my wife works, CrossFit Woburn. They follow Lynchpin, so I gave him what we did yesterday, which was 2 days ago. Sorry, which was pretty much what was it? I don't even remember.
It was hard.
That's how much you work out.
But I gave it to him, and I gave him the dumbbell version pretty much, and he was like, "Wow, it was only like 2 rounds." Wait, was it? Yeah, it was 2 rounds, and he was like, he looked at it, goes, "Yeah, that's gonna be pretty quick." I go, "No, it's gonna be at least 20 minutes. Trust me on that." He goes, "All right." And he texted me, he goes, "That was terrible." He goes, "I didn't expect it to be that long." I go, "Yeah, it looked simple on paper. 2 rounds, 3 movements, nothing crazy." Oh, it was run. Yeah, it was run, muscle ups, and something else, and run, dumbbell burpees, and muscle ups. So I had him do pull ups and dips instead of the muscle ups. And he was like, "Oh, I'm done. He's like, "I went home and took a nap, and relaxed." And then another guy that I work with is this. He's like, actually, it's cliche to say he's like the American dream. He's an immigrant from Ireland and served in the army here, and he's a cop now, full Irish brogue, like crazy guy. He's a funny kid. He's a funny guy, and he's like 40ish. He's older, but he's probably up to my neck, and I'm like 5'9", so he's got to be like 5'5", 5'4". And he was like, "Listen, with the brogue, hey, I hear you're working with Joe. Do you think?" yeah, I'll help you out. No problem. I'll work with you. I don't care. I'm like, yeah, just come work out with me and Joe, and I'll get you on the program.
That's awesome.
And we'll work. And actually, he's one of the older guys. He's like 40ish, and I want to say like mid-40s. He's old. He's a little long in the tooth, but
Hey, mid-40s is not that old, right, Sevan?
No, not at all.
Guido, did you win the Guido? Did you win the gauntlet at Wadapalooza last year?
I won
2 years ago.
Yeah, I won the intermediate gauntlet. Yeah, the only reason I didn't do RX was because the snatch was 225 in the scale, which I was like, nope, can't do that. So
smart man.
What was that like?
That was a brutal test.
Thank God COVID and lockdowns hit like a week later, because I was smashed for like 3 months. I couldn't even think about working. I've done a few hard competitions, like 2-day competitions, and like that was probably the hardest workouts I've ever done, competition I've ever done, and it was only an hour each day. It was 1 hour. I think it was like 6 workouts.
Sevan, do you know what this is?
No, but I'm dying to know. Tell me, I'm dying to know.
Well, Guido can tell you about it, maybe specifically, but basically there's a ton of guys, and they run them through 6 workouts in an hour in these heats all day, and they're looking for the best. It's the fans. It's not competitors.
Yeah, so you like just sign up, and you really don't. I think it was like $20 or whatever. The backstory was my wife hates me because I like took the shine from her, I guess. So she went down there to compete on a team, and she was on a team, and then like I was like, what am I gonna do? I was gonna drop in the gyms and stuff like anyone does that goes down to Miami. They just drop in the gyms or get a workout. I'm like, I saw this going. I go, what's this? And I looked at the workouts, and I was like, oh, I can do all those. So what it is like they give you an hour, and you do one workout after another after another. I think it was like 4 workouts within that hour, and it's just heat after heat after heat, and you get smashed pretty much. It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, and somehow I made the finals, and I won. I was shocked, to be honest with you. I didn't think I was.
It's on his Instagram site, and you look a little bit shocked on the podium. You're like,
he was dead.
the funniest part was that my wife goes, if you get a first place shirt, like at the games or anything, you're on a podium. She's like, that's it. This is the biggest scam of all time, she always says. And sure enough, I'm in the back with a first place shirt on, and I'm like on the podium, and I'm just dying laughing.
Were you really, you felt it for 3 months after that?
I felt it for a good, like few weeks. Like, I was smashed. Like, I never worked out that hard ever. Like, we used to do like competitors classes on a Saturday, or like long Monday matches from linchpin and stuff like that. Nothing like it. That was the hardest I've ever like trained or worked out. That was crazy.
Did you meet your wife at a CrossFit gym?
She was actually my coach. She was my coach.
That's awesome.
So my CrossFit thing was like, I went to a gym where I went to like a CrossFit gym in the city I lived in at the time, and it was like a low level kind of like, we all, it's like a non-competitive gym. It's just a gym so for people to get fit, and then, you get competitive. And then I went to another gym where she worked that I didn't know at the time, obviously. I just went to that gym because it was a more competitive gym with more people that are, competitive. So I wanted to try to, like, the goal at the time was always, I want to get to regionals. But, obviously now that's changed. But back then that was the goal. So you wanted to go to a more competitive gym, and she was the coach there, whatever. I was dating a girl at the time, and then me and my ex, we broke up, whatever, and I moved out, and me and her just hit it off. We went on a couple of dates and never.
But you guys have competed together also, right, in some local team competitions?
Yeah, we gotta hold that title. So,
do you ask the coach out, or does the coach ask you out? How's that work?
She had no idea. Through a friend that another coach that was there, but me and the other coach were friends or whatever. And I was like, I think I might ask Rachel to go out. Like, yeah, you like her? I'm like, well, I take her class every day. I don't mind looking at her, that's for sure. So, I mean, try to, ask her out.
It's interesting. Oh man, you're younger and you're doing it. You obviously were doing it you are doing it at this higher level. But as you get older, you will see.
There's
You
no
are.
high level going
Trust
on.
me, you are. As you get older, I think you will really, really, really see how fortunate the two of you are to have found each other, because as you get older, and as the smartest people on the planet know, the most important thing we have is our health. And if you don't, the only time, unfortunately, people realize that is when they lose their health. And it's so cool that you found someone who has a practice that's about longevity, being a better person, constantly working on yourself. Whether you want to or not, if you go to a CrossFit gym or you do anything, in this realm, you have to get better every single day. And that doesn't mean your scores have to get better, but you have to work on yourself. Like, your days are limited with eating like shit. You know what I mean? Like, because you've put a premium on, and not that you eat like shit, by the way. You eat amazing if you're doing carnivore 6 days a week. But you know what I mean? Each day you get older, you have to whittle away at becoming better and better and better to maintain, with discipline and lifestyle habits, in order to feel good. Because you don't have the room that you do as a young man. But you're really fortunate that you found a woman who's on the same path as that. Because in the end, really, you just want to not have anyone wipe your ass. You want to be able to wipe your own ass for as long as possible, right? As Greg would say, that's the goal. That's the end game.
You just want to be able to. I want to, when I have a kid, I want to be able to run around with them. I want to be able to be active with them. I want to be able to play football with my kid or whatever they decide to get into. I don't want to be that sloppy dad in the stands with the beer belly, and that's like, oh, remember me in high school? I was good. And now look at me.
Well, God, this is so sad to say, but I think it's true. At least that kid has a dad, right? I mean, at least that kid fucking has a dad. I mean, it's like, shh, yeah, he's at the 50-yard line. But I totally know what you mean. You want to be a good example. It's funny, I hadn't done a muscle up in 2 years because my shoulder was bothering me, and now my oldest is 6, and he's ready to start doing them. So a couple months ago, I'm like, okay. I better start doing negatives and get a couple muscle ups in the book so that I can show my son. But it's an amazing thing to be able to move and do these things.
That's a big thing. Just that little thing, like, oh, I gotta do this so I can show them. I like it's. He's gonna take you seriously because you've done it.
Right.
You see a lot of coaches at gyms that like, oh, they're gonna teach me how to do a pull up, but they can't do a pull up. That's you kind of respect a lot more. You take their word a lot more seriously than the others.
Right. Do you work out with your wife at all? Do you guys work out together?
Yeah, we try to we don't like make it a point, but I'm like, hey, I'm going to the gym, I'm taking the noon or whatever. If she's typically coaching the noon if I take it, but that's kind of I always go like the noon when it's my work day because that's what works the best for my schedule. So I hit that, and if she's not coaching it, she's usually in the class too. So it's not like a conscious effort of like, oh, we got to work out together,
Well, let's say if you guys traveled together, would you do a hotel room workout together? Like, would you be like, okay, baby, you do 20 burpees, I do 20 burpees. Let's get in like 5 or 6 rounds this morning. We don't have a lot of time. Or is there anything like that? Or
we're kind of like the typical CrossFit couple in the sense of like, we travel, we're gonna drop into like a gym, like we're gonna go out of our way, we're gonna find a gym to go to. And that's like that's one of the cooler things to do in the community. Just see other gyms, meet people. Like when we went to
a lot of people are intimidated to do that. So I think it's good to share that and say like, you can drop into a box anywhere you go, man. They're almost always going to be welcoming and accommodating.
Always welcome. Always welcome. I mean, I don't know now, COVID restrictions, but I'm sure if you go to Texas, they're cool with it. So, but yeah, I mean, like we went to Tennessee, we were in Nashville, so we went to a gym in Nashville, and then we were like, I think like a half hour out of Cookville. So we said, screw it, we're gonna rent the car, we'll take the drive and drop into Cookville. That was one of the sicker gyms we went. It's that and Reykjavik were two of the sickest gyms we went to.
You've been to? Is that Reykjavik's in Iceland?
Yeah, Annie's gym. Yeah, we went there. That's a crazy gym. Crazy. Like you think Cookville's big, and then you go there. They have. Have you ever been to Reykjavik or seen it?
Many years ago. Maybe they've moved since I've been there. Many years ago.
So when you went there, did they have that big open facility where it was like 3 or 4 platforms of like classes going on at once?
Honestly, I can't remember. I
remember we went there. We ended up talking to the owner. I forget his name. And he was like, yeah, we have a wait list of, we can't even take people for memberships now. We have a wait list for hundreds of people trying to get in, but we can't even take them because we just don't have the room. They literally have, you walk in and like there's a typical size CrossFit gym floor in one section. Next to it's another one. Next to it's another one. Next to it's another one. There's literally 4. Equipment everywhere. Crazy. I can't imagine the amount of money they spent on that. But there's legitimately full classes going on every platform. It's crazy. That's something that's something I wish happened in the U.S. Like so many people taking their fitness seriously and making it a priority. Because that's everything.
I've seen pictures of the inside of their gym when there's like 16 assault runners lined up back to back to back. Like those cost $4,000 each.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like if you think Cookville's big thing, I think from what I remember, I want to say Reykjavik is probably like 2.5 mayhems. Absolutely massive.
They have some crazy numbers going on in Iceland, like more CrossFit gyms per capita than any other country in the world. And I mean, I know they only have like 300,000 or 400,000 people, but I want to say with the one time I heard a number that Annie's gym had 800 members.
Oh yeah. He told us. I forget the exact number, but I think it was like 800, 900 members, active members, and he had a wait list for more, even like 200, 300 more people trying to get in, but he just didn't have the room for it.
Do you think you'll ever open a gym?
It crossed my mind a little bit, but then I'm like, I don't have the time. Time is very not in my favor with work. I have to work a lot to provide, so it is what it is. But I asked her if that's something she would want to do. She doesn't want to own the gym and deal with the typical gym owner stuff. So that's understandable, you know.
Very. Well, speaking of time, Guido, thank you for your service. I mean that from the bottom of my father's heart. No, my fatherly heart. I thank you for your time. I respect everything that police officers do. I know that they're just human beings out there. They're people's moms, dads, sisters, brothers. I wish the world would see that more and realize that we're all just people here, and that you've chosen a path to give yourself to society, but you're just a person as valuable as the rest of us. And anyway, thank you very much for everything you do.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me. This is unbelievable.
You obviously raised well because you DM with random people on Instagram and come on their podcast, so you should probably work on that.
Hey, wait. Yeah, I mean, you had me on your podcast, so it says even worse for you.
All right, man. Thank you, and have a great day.
Thanks, man.
Guido.
You too.
Thanks, Guido.
Nice meeting you guys.
Don't hang up.
Don't hang up.